What's going on, everybody? It's special edition of the Motorsports Almanac live here on Sunday afternoon. We were gonna wait until Tuesday to do this, or even record our reactions and a review to the World Series of Pro Mod that went on this weekend. But holy cow, I was so excited to wait. It was a crazy weekend all the way around.
Yeah, it's the hype built around this event, whether it's Westbrook promoting it or the racers themselves posting on their social medias about the event. The hype definitely lived up to itself. And I think with the amount of racing they had, the little delays they had, and the crazy events that happened, it definitely was one to watch.
Yeah. I mean, we had storylines develop from even during testing and then whenever they rode off the trailer and into qualifying that weekend. I mean, we had the injury to, I think it was Rowe, wasn't it?
It was Todd's dad.
Todd. Yeah, Todd had a drive shaft come apart and the yoke from the drive shaft shot up through the car and caught his elbow on the way up, and whenever it was exiting out the top of the car. So they didn't really know where he was going to be come race time this weekend. And then lo and behold, he still made it back in time. But I don't even know where to start where all the madness started happening, to be honest.
Well, it obviously started in qualifying. Qualifying for the World Series of Pro Mod is always gut wrenching. It's always nerve wracking. With having 81 cars on the property, 83 were ready to sign up, 81 cars on the property ready to rip and headhunt everybody. You got everybody on edge all the time. A lot of weird events happening throughout qualifying. One that even Brian Lohnes and Mike Carpenter, and the announcers seen throughout qualifying was the lack of parachutes deploying was probably the most standout one. In recent years or even recent events, we've never seen this many parachute. Not going to go failures, but a lot of late releases, a lot of deploys at almost the shutdown area. Scott Taylor was one of them. He had it caught up under the car. Scott Palmer unfortunately had a wreck that was caused by a throttle hung wide open, and then ultimately did not cause the parachutes to deploy. Usually on some other racing associations like the NHRA, they have the towers at the end of the track will have sensors or some electronic device on them that will automatically deploy the chutes for you if you don't hit them by that time. So there's nothing like that at this outlaw event, and you have to rely on your own awareness to get them out. But sometimes if they don't deploy out, you're kind of a sitting duck in a 200-mile-an-hour pro mod.
Yeah. So. Yeah, I mean, that was definitely one of the storylines in qualifying. I think another one of the storylines in qualifying, too, though, was there were names where we were expecting them to be at the top of the heap from round one, and they were not. Mark Mickey going into, I think it was even into round three, he was on the outside looking in.
Mark Mickey went into Friday outside the field, and Mark ultimately did end up being number one for the 13th time in a row. But Mark has always been one of those you can guarantee on race day he's going to be qualified. But I think it caught him kind of a surprise that, going into Friday, he was sitting 42nd, 43rd out of a 32-car field. It definitely changes your approach. He had data to go off of. He had enough runs and a good time slip to just go into the next day and be confident. But it still keeps you a little bit on edge knowing that you're not in the show.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you think at one point Erica Enders wasn't in. At one point Antron Brown was on the bubble to get in. Shelton's made a huge improvement from where they were 2 weekends ago. I mean, it just kept getting better and better and better. And I mean, honestly, it felt like Q5 on Friday night was like elimination time. Like we were narrowing them down to go into like the semifinals and the finals. You just never knew. As long as they didn't have to fight Tire Shake, there was a good chance that they were going to make it, which was absolutely crazy to watch.
Yeah, and I think the one thing that made Friday night such a spectacular qualifying session alone, everybody had the chance to run under the lights, or nearly everybody. In the past, when they have the final qualifying session lined up for 5:45 or 6 o'clock, there's still a little bit of sunlight out, and there's still a little bit of heat left in the day. That the track is still not cooled down yet, still hasn't tightened up, still hasn't given that shot to throw everything they got for power down and try and throw a 363 or quicker on the board.
Yeah,
So
can we talk about that too? Is just how much quicker the times just kept getting, even yesterday in the heat of the day in eliminations. That was absolutely insane.
I'm not going to say it's a shock, but the heat definitely is one where you never expect the quick time. Quick time being anything that's a 360, I'm going to say 367. 367 and quicker is usually something that's like your home run ball, trying to throw that at night type tune up, or even quicker than that. So seeing that consistently in the daytime was definitely one to watch. I think cloud cover was one big thing.
Yeah.
But other than that, it's kind of an expected thing when it comes to the nighttime runs or even the early morning runs when the track isn't quite at that, 110, 120 degree track temp. It's in that mid to high 90s where you can still throw a lot of power down.
Yeah, it was really fun. I think the crazy drama that came out of the qualifying though was in Q5. Never Bob Glenn and Antron Brown were lined up next to each other. Both of them had made a pass that was going to put them into the 32 car field, but because Bob Glenn went out of bounds and took out the timing, I don't know if you want to. I don't want to say they're timing cones, but I don't
They're
really know
timing
what else
blocks.
to call them. And because he had hit them, they determined they had no accurate way to determine what their time would have been, so they DQ'd them both. That was absolutely nuts. I can't imagine Antron was very happy about it, to be honest.
I think in the eyes of a racer, there's definitely going to be some frustrations. Antron, I would expect to be just a little bit frustrated on the fact that he did get his time removed and not counted for. But as a racer, he's done this long enough. He's pretty much done this all of his life. He knew going in around the corner that it wasn't going to count. He's dealt with this many times before. He knows the rules. It's just it's a sucky situation knowing that both of them were on a pass. Bob Glenn was obviously going to be in the show. Antron was just a little bit behind him. Was he in the show? Was not in the show, but by the looks of it, he was going to be in.
I think whenever they popped up the numbers on the Flow feed, I think they literally they were like number 13, number 14. Like they were staggered on top of each other.
But when it comes to that, though, you hit the timing blocks, you'll activate both at the same time. So they're both going to be simultaneously clocked and given roughly the same ET in some similar mile an hour. So that's why you have to DQ both runs. One, because Bob went over the center line, so that disqualifies him right there. But Antron does not have an accurate reading where you can put him number 5, when you could, in all reality, be number 45 by the run you made. So
I think there's just so many. I don't want to say they were surprising names, like the guy who even owns the Bradenton Motorsports track, Mr. Alvarez. That was crazy. I mean, this was really like what, his third or fourth time in the car. I think.
Yeah, it was only like fifth pass total in the car.
And he made a huge jump. I think he jumped up all the way to number 2 at some point.
He was number 1 for a little while.
Was he number? Oh, did he go full number 1?
Yes. Okay. In the earlier session, when there was 363, 364 on the board for number 1 time, Victor ran a 361. And obviously, turbo cars are going to have a huge top end pickup because they still build boost and still cramming power in late in the track because they have so much power. That's where you got your top end speed from. And he's basically got the same setup as Mark Mickey. Basically, a carbon copy. Mark has helped tuning it, so he's going to have a similar one.
Yeah,
but I think for the most part, we've seen a lot of teams in there that we kind of expected to see. Shelton's, I will say for one, we've known them for a long time, and they're a resilient bunch. you got to give them a little time because they're gonna come and hunt for it. It was gonna be one run, and it was gonna be that night run when they were gonna get in, and they made a good call. Whatever it was they changed, they got in, and they deserved to get in because Stan made one hell of a driving job going over by the wall and kept it in and got in the show.
Yeah, I mean, he said in his interview there at the end of the track, he said, "Oh, that's not going to hold up. That's not going to hold up." And I mean, to be honest, the way the round was going, I really didn't know if it was going to hold up either because, I mean, it just seemed like they were going through a time where everybody was just getting faster and faster and faster. So that was really cool to watch. But I don't know where else to start with that. Q5 was awesome, but it wasn't just the pro mods that showed out this weekend. The pro stock showed out. Those top sportsman guys showed out. I think we also learned a lot about these guys that aren't full-time pro mod drivers. I think that we learned that they're going to be a force to be reckoned with if they get time to be in their cars.
That's anything I believe in. Obviously, no prep guys jumping over is definitely a change for them, but they're not any dummies when it comes to driving a race car. Sean obviously did not make the show in either one of the events he ran, but if you look at the times, look at his reaction times alone, he's right on the ball. It's just get a couple things with the car figured out. He's in the show, and he's going to be a competitor. Kai Kelly came right out with one of the best tuners in the game, Jeff Pierce, with a really good chassis under him, good car. Obviously a contender. Robin Roberts will get the same way. It's a really good chassis. Just got to learn how to throw down a tune-up. A race car driver is going to be a race car driver. You can either be a person who drives one or you can be a race car driver, and there's very distinct differences. And those guys in there are race car drivers, and that's what they're born to do, and they do it well.
Yeah. The debut of Tommy Franklin's new car too. That car is absolutely gorgeous, and that's going to be a tough running car all season long too with the PDRA guys.
Tommy's no slouch. Obviously knows what he wanted when it came to a new car. He wanted everything he wanted and what was going to work, and it showed out. Qualified well. Obviously, if you had that Friday night Q5 session and he got a pass down, he was going to be in top 20 at least. But at least him being on the bump spot, it was still scary for others knowing that he was in the show.
Yeah, I mean, they had a good weekend all the way around for Tommy Franklin Motorsports as a whole, with Amber doing well. Blake gave us probably the ride of the weekend to watch with his wheelie literally going all the way down the track and not hitting back down till the end of the track. And then Tommy debuting his new car, and I mean, having the results he did. That's going to be a fun group to watch. And PDRA, dude, they really flexed their muscle this weekend, I felt like.
Well, PDRA has flexed their muscle at the World Series of Promo for the last 3 years. Spencer won in 2023. He's a force to be reckoned with on the PDRA. He's won PDRA events in the past. Derek Ward, your PDRA record holder in the 8th mile, won it in 2024. And now Steve King, your winner in 2025, a stakehold on the PDRA circuit as well. PDRA is showing out everywhere when it comes to 8th mile outlaw drag racing.
Yeah. It was a lot of fun to watch. We've actually got the run that Blake had yesterday pulled up here for everybody to see. If you didn't see it, watch this. This was incredible. That was a show in itself to see that, but I don't know where else to go. I mean, Little Gangsters was a big deal this past weekend, so I'm excited for next year. I think that's going to be a staple. I really hope we have the opportunity to go down there next year. I don't care if it's for one of the events. I don't care if it's for 2. I don't care if it's for all 3 of them. I feel like we need to be there in some shape or form or fashion if they'll have us.
The Winter Series is definitely going to be something that's going to be a stakehold for motorsports for years to come. I was talking to a motorsports friend of mine here locally within the past couple of days, and I said the growth of drag racing. You just take drag racing alone. You take the 8th mile stuff that we just seen. 83 drivers on one property trying to qualify. We haven't seen that in the Lord knows how long. When the first World Series of Pro Mod happened, or the first couple, when you only have 12, 13 cars on the property and you have to qualify everybody, you didn't know what the future held. But now that there's 80 plus on the property and more people want to come yet, and they want to build more events and the purses keep going up, 8th Mile Outlaw Pro Mod is the place to be. I love the NHRA, but the Pro Mod world is on the top right now. So
yeah. And this weekend was a time for a couple of them that it's gonna be the last time that we see him in his Pro Mod, until probably this time next year for the Illustrated Series. Spencer's Hides last weekend. And the Jack and the Grainstock, they're going into Gainesville, Florida next week.
Well, he's not the only one, really. He's not the only one, really. Understanding Spencer's not going to be in the PDRA series, but he's still going to be racing.
Yeah, Eric that's what I said. He was racing into NHRA.
Eric Enders, the Elite Motorsports with Scott Tidwell Camp, Race the Outlaw Series, now going to the NHRA. Brian Karate with Zach Sackman driving his car. Brian Toons, Antron Brown. Another one transitioning over. Antron transitioning over. You have multiples, and I don't think it's going to stop there. I think next year we're going to see more and more of these pro driver type style people, whether it's NHRA, even some IHRA, your PDRA guys that don't necessarily run down there. You're going to see them down there. Your Street Outlaw guys. There's more guys building pro mods or buying pro mods. It's not going to stop. So the growth is definitely here to stay. And I think it's going to help with multiple associations as well. Midwest Drag Racing Series for one. Your Extreme Pro Mods. It's just a matter of time till it's just a matter. Just give it some time, and it's going to explode.
Yeah. So I mean, here's my question to you: do we see this series? Do we see more pro mods there next year? Do you think they cap it at a certain point?
It's already capped the way it is with invite only. So since it's already determined by the guys at Drag Illustrated who they want there based upon their qualifications. I think there's possibly a race your way in type style to get an invitation. Mm-hmm. It may be PDRA, say like Drag Wars or something. It may be the Northern Heads Up series they have in Michigan. It could be the Midwest Drag Racing series. It could be West Coast. It doesn't matter. But I do think you'll see like a race your way in type style. The more the merrier when it comes to 10-5 and your Mountain Motor Pro Stock, I think is what they might be looking for here. But the pro mods, when you have teams still asking to be a part of it, when there's 80 drivers on the property, it means it's in a good place. Yeah.
I'll be honest with you. I think we're going to see up to 100 next year. I think 100 pro mods will be there.
It's going to be close. It'll be close to that. 80 was a lot this year already, and they have to do a lot of track prep with that. But I wouldn't put it past them, especially the guys testing, because I know William Brown was down there testing. Sam Rukoff brought 2 cars to test. Yeah, I would not put it out of the picture.
No. And I mean, just like I said earlier, I really hope that we're fortunate enough to be able to go down there for that race and event specifically next year. But watching all these guys that were there this past weekend, it's going to be a lot of fun. But that wasn't the only thing going on this weekend. You know, we had polls going on. Shelbyville, Tennessee with TNT was going on, Pro Pulling League. I think they were in Arcadia, Florida. I think that they've got, 1 or 2 more hooks down there for the Florida series, and then they're done for the year.
By the way,
for the winter series.
From what Lacey's were saying, there is 1 poll or 2-day poll left down there in Green Cove Springs next to Jacksonville, and that should finish out the Florida series. And then from there, we should be moving into the Midwest.
Yeah,
well, at least closer to the Midwest, because Galat and TPC will probably be the first ones. Besides, your Sullivan Memorials or events like that.
Yeah, you've got him in Louisiana coming up at the end of the month. I know. for Mid South. And man, I'll tell you what, the pulling world is in a really odd spot right now, I think. Especially with the light limited class, because the talk of components down here it's a real thing. And I don't know what's going to come of that. I really don't. I hope that light limited class doesn't go to component, but there might be a few that do.
It's it's been a talk in all classes for a couple of years now. Actually, there's been people have requested all classes go to components because it's safer and this and that. And I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place on this. Light pros, I can see now going component because of their horsepower levels. It may make it easier on guys. Move weight's one of the things. But and I agree to your point that I don't hope light limited goes component, and here's why. I think as a sport, we need to take in safety and in a different way. We always talk about, this will fix it, or this will fix it, but not really does it fix it right away. We need to take a look at our individual vehicles themselves, because we're always worried about, hey, will they tech me for this? Is this legal? Is this legal? Well, then if you're questioning on if it's legal or not, or if it's right, or if it's safe, then it's not.
Yeah,
because we see some vehicles, like chassis builders will come up and say, why did he build this like this? This is going to hurt it down the road, or this is not safe. It kind of baffles me in the sense that we're having this conversation, because we shouldn't be having the conversation of, is this safe or not, when it should be built safely from the beginning.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, that goes back to my point. I don't think component chassis are the solution to light limited super. I
agree to that. I agree. I don't get. It's
some
not
of our
a negative.
Best friends. Here's the thing: some of our best friends that run light limited, they are for it down the road, but not right now.
Right. You have to gain that much horsepower for one. Also, they're light enough. It kind of makes them dangerous in that sense because they get so wild. That's just the nature of the beast.
But yeah. I mean, we've had this talk whenever we go to Midwest Winter Nationals. You can run 6,000 pounds outdoors. That's all fine and dandy. Whenever we go into an enclosed building and all that, we've got to put you at a little bit heavier weight, just so that we know we can maintain control of you in a shortened distance in a enclosed space, especially.
But there's a lot of guys that don't believe that. It says, it's going to hurt my setup. It's going to hurt this. Well, if you have your setup figured out, it shouldn't hurt it in the first place. Sorry.
Right. But I mean, there is something that can be said for that. I mean, those guys are already tight on weight to begin with. So I don't know. I don't know what the solution is for that. And like I said, they could very well pass it. And what becomes of all these light limited chassis down here, I don't know. I don't think it's been talked about up your way at all.
It hasn't been a conversation point at all, because if you ask anybody that comes up here for a light limited, you ask any Badger State guy, you ask any WTPA guy, ECI guy, I don't know of all of the competitors. I know of one person that says components is going to be the answer or what we need to move to right now. Yeah. And I've talked to many of the guys that are your top runners or your guys that are struggling right now. You ask both spectrums. Neither one has the same answer. Neither one has the same result of components are the answer.
Yeah. Now, you talk about the Light Pro situation. I can see it with the power that they're gaining. Honestly, I just don't know. I mean, we've only seen the one. We don't know how much more of a difference it's going to make.
Well, there's technically 3 Light Pros out there, components, but...
Well, I've only seen the one in person, you know what I mean?
Right.
But they haven't just come in and just blown the field out by storm either.
Well, here's the thing, too. Everyone thinks it's going to be a performance enhancer. It's not a performance enhancer. It's a safety thing, really. Because you're taking say you're taking the casting and everything out, the casting and stuff out of it. You're basically just moving the weight to some other different point where you can balance the tractor out where it doesn't become unstable.
Yeah, exactly.
So it is not a performance enhancer where you're going to gain power or anything, or the traction is going to get better. Yes, the movable weight is going to help you gain traction based upon where you put it, but it's not a performance enhancer as, oh, I'm going to gain this much horsepower because it takes less to turn. It's like, not quite that simple.
Yeah, exactly. But I don't know. I think it's going to be really interesting to see where that goes this summer, too. How many of them are going to get done and how many of them are going to be running. And, I mean, we're going to try to monitor that. I think we've kind of made that a point for this coming year that we're going to try to monitor, like, how much of that, like, are the components kind of rising above the ag guys, or are the ag guys still holding their own? But we'll see for sure. I mean, as far as we know so far, it hasn't made that much of a difference.
Well, it's going to be hand in hand here, depending on, okay, do they have a component? Okay. Do they have a competitive engine setup? That's your next question. If they don't have a competitive engine setup, then you're comparing apples to oranges.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, the ones so far that have come out, I think it's safe to say that they are. I think that's completely safe to say.
I could say one right now. We're waiting on the other ones to come.
Yeah.
So.
But yeah, I mean, it's about time to go. It's about time to go pulling. I'm super excited about that. I think we're going to try to put out a schedule of where we're all going to be all summer long, so you guys have an idea of where we are, and you guys just don't see us popping up somewhere. I mean, there's going to be some times where we just pop up out of nowhere, but we're going to try to put a schedule together for you guys of like where Motorsports Almanac is going to be this summer. So if you guys want a hat or something, or stickers or whatever, you guys can just say, hey, I'm going to be there too, and we'll just end up meeting up and stuff like that. And you guys will have a better idea of where we're going to be bringing you coverage from at the same time.
Yep. Exactly. I think a schedule will help at least, because then we can, people can plan accordingly. So
yeah. The other bit of news that I saw come out, and I don't know if it's come out fully yet, but Dragway 42 has been sold. IHRA did purchase that raceway, and one of the first questions I've gotten asked was, well, what's going to happen to the pulling there? Because pulling at Dragway 42 is really popular by itself. I think pulling is going to be just fine there with where it is.
By way of what Kyle is right, I think by way of what Kyle has commented, it's not going to change at all. Like he stated, him and his family are going nowhere, so that makes me believe that OSTPA or your events there are not going to move at all. Your spring event or your fall event. So
yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, I don't foresee that being a problem. From what I've even been told, the IHRA, the people who own the IHRA even love truck and tractor pulling too. So I don't. I think we're fine.
They do. They can tell you that for truth.
Yeah, because I mean we're on the countdown to busy season. I think that's a fact. I'm going to be getting mine out. You guys have got your testing tune day coming up soon there too, don't you?
We have
Danville, I think it was.
No, we have. So next month is when we start dirt track racing season. Maquoketa opens up, and so is Davenport. Then from there we go. Earlville will open up racing test and tunes early April.
Earlville, yeah.
And then we go test and tune for pulling at Earlville as well at the pulling track in early May.
Oh, is it early May?
Mm-hmm. That'll be time for anybody that say it's local to us that wants to do some TPC testing or something like that. We can accommodate that by bringing you in and running you. That's where that comes into play. We've had that the past couple of years. Teams will come up, returning teams, people with new vehicles. They'll come and they'll test new vehicles there at Earlville. Timmermans did it past for TPC. We were there last year. Jamie Morrow's returned. Was at Earlville. So,
yeah. The Crusade for Children's Benefit Pool too. It's the Clarkson Fire and Rescue putting that pool on there in Litchfield, Kentucky again. They just came out with their flyer. It's going to be April 12th. They have added in Super Farm for this year. So I have to get old 305 out and go make a hit there before we get the full season underway.
Anything for the kids.
Yeah.
Anything for the kids. We can say that from experience that children's hospitals are God's gift.
Yeah, that's exactly right. But just some of the trucks they're going to have there. I mean, we're going to have mini trucks, obviously, street legal diesel trucks, light limited supers, 95 hot farm, 62 light limiteds, and then a whole lot of farm tractor classes. I think there was over 150 hooks at this event last year. It was absolutely crazy. So they have expanded that show to 2 tracks too.
Mm-hmm.
There in Litchfield, so that's going to be a lot of fun. So hopefully we'll get a bunch of guys to come out for that one. If you guys have any questions about that event, if you guys want to come down and hang out, feel free. 3-0 guys, you guys have got a class there too. I know you guys like to show up here, yonder, and everywhere, so why not show up for that one?
Yep.
And then Super Farm clarification, if you've got an intercooler, you're going to run 93. If you don't have the intercooler, you're going to run 95.
Basically TPC rules.
Yeah. I mean,
or Clint's rules, whichever one you want to take.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the best route to go with it, honestly. Because, I mean, down here where I live at, you have most of us are intercooled now. There's only a couple of them left that haven't switched to intercoolers. And,
well, I think you're in that range of between intercooler and non-intercooler. Like you're in that Ohio, Indiana, Kentucky area. You can gain a couple either way.
Yeah, exactly. So hopefully we will. We're gonna promote the crap out of that pool. That pool does so much good for the Crusade for Children's group. And last year, I think they were the highest raising group last year. So we're gonna do everything we can to help them out.
Yep, for sure.
But yeah,
for sure.
Want to talk about charity pulls to Oak Grove, Kentucky was this past weekend. That place. So I've told you where I live with Oak Grove here and where I am in relative to like where the pool was. The amount of people that came from everywhere to be here this past weekend was absolutely insane. But here's the crazy part. They were done by like 6:30 every night. They started early in the morning and they were done before nightfall.
That's good. At least they're moving through stuff.
Yeah. And I got to I was behind the wheel of the Heartbreaker 2 sled for about 5 hooks yesterday. That was a lot of fun too, and it helped me gain like a different perspective because like you and I both know like the quieter you can keep the pan and keep it settled whenever you're leaving off your hole shot, the better off you are. I really learned a lot about that yesterday because I could feel it in the sled. Like they weren't moving it very hard, but just that little bit. I mean, you could just kind of feel it do like that rocking effect, and you could feel the pan hit the ground from inside the sled there. So that I actually learned a little bit off of that.
It doesn't matter what portion of pulling you're in. I know people have always said that, oh, it's racing now. That mentality is true for literally every aspect of pulling top to bottom, even what you were doing yesterday. It's like if you can feel the pan moving, it means they're moving the sled pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, just being there in the driver's seat, too, it was a lot of fun. Can't say big thanks to Justin Collier for letting me do that yesterday. That was a lot of fun to get behind the wheel of legendary sled, the Heartbreaker 2, on top of that.
I think people give sled operators too much grief until they get in the seat of it one day. I think if you need to experience at least be in the sled once to understand what their job and duty is.
Oh, yeah.
Because they gain some respect for them.
Now, was there a little part of me yesterday? It's kind of like, okay, I like how this feels going 11 miles an hour. I kind of wonder what it would feel like to hook up to something that's going like 30. Yeah, I
True.
kind of want to try that sometime. I've ridden in the passenger seat of one. I wonder what it's like to be behind the wheel of one of those. So, yeah, man, it was a lot of fun yesterday, and it kind of gave me a new perspective on what these guys do and how they do it, especially. And I also learned yesterday that some sleds are wired a little bit more simple than others. Like the Heartbreaker 2 sled, it's still wired fairly simple because I mean it is an old sled, right? That sled's been around a long time, so that was really neat. But yeah, man, I think unfortunately we're in kind of a motorsports limbo until Gainesville next weekend.
Not even that. We're gonna hit the ground running to that. I think after Gainesville is when we hit the limbo, really, because we go Gainesville. All right, spring break, couple weeks off, then racing, polling, racing, week after
Yeah,
week.
that's exactly right. Watched last season's interleague pull off sled operation, went for a ride. Yeah, you see now, Mick, that's the thing. That's the one part of it I'm not looking forward to is if I ever get the chance to do it from there and what kind of ride they take. But yeah, man, that was a lot of
that
fun.
wasn't the only. That was not the only. Like it happens on tracks too.
Oh, I know.
Enderley was one of them where you gained a little bit of a bounce or a loop in it and made the sled drivers, even the drivers themselves, go for a ride. Benson a couple years ago was the same way. It depends on if you get a lull in the track based upon the track packer. That's what makes them do that. But
yeah, it was a lot of fun though. I'll gladly do that again sometime if I'm not driving. But I think it's about time to wind this one down. Y'all, we've got some special interviews on the way. We're gonna get a couple of guests in that they've never been interviewed, but they have got all the stories in the world whenever it comes to truck and tractor bowling. But they will be recorded ones. They won't be live ones at all. So we're not going to do another live show until probably next Tuesday, not so like March 11th, the week of Keystone. And we'll probably go through all that and talk about Gainesville and all that kind of stuff.
Yep. We're just kind of in that transition era right now. We're after Louisville, a couple of big events, and then here comes spring.
Yeah, no, I really don't like it. I'll be 100% honest. I do not like it. This may be where we need to break out the trivia night.
Have to think of trivia questions.
Oh, we know enough people and we can ask enough people to come up with some questions. Like if they want to add in some questions themselves, I don't think that'll be a problem.
Yep. So,
all right, y'all.
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna
nothing else.
Me either. I say we jump off here and go back to chilling out. I was in the middle of Circuit the Americas before we came down here. So,
yep.
We will see you guys again soon. Be on the lookout, y'all. Oh, I almost forgot. I know we don't have a ton of our normal audience watching today, but I'm hoping like this will circulate in the algorithm. They'll come back and watch. We need your guys' help now, almost more than ever. The NHRA came out this past week, and they're really leaning into this social media influencers and allowing them at their races and everything. But they have this special area they're calling the Burnout Media Box or Burnout Box or whatever. We have to have 25,000 people in order to be down there in that box. We're at 14. We would love to get there by September with all of y'all's help, of course. So if you guys like sharing it and then following us too, tell your friends to follow us. We'd greatly appreciate it because that is that's our new goal is to be able to go there and be in the Burnout Box at a NHRA event. That'd be absolutely crazy.
Yeah, the quicker we get to 25,000, it doesn't matter if it's September, if it's July or May. Quicker we do it, quicker we bring you some cooler stuff.
Yeah, I think you're going to really see us expand into I think we're going to see a little bit more drag racing on this page in the for this coming year.
For sure.
Yep. All right, y'all. Now we're clear to go out. Thank y'all for tuning in on Sunday. I know it's a little bit of an odd time for us to go back to our roots on whenever we started doing Sunday shows. But
yeah, that was something.
Yeah. All right, y'all. We will see y'all soon. Like I said, we're gonna be posting videos up every day this week. Just please, 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 if you guys see them, like them. And if you haven't followed us already, please follow us. It helps us out a bunch. They never specify like what platform you have to have 25,000 on, but we just need to hit 25,000 in order to be able to go with them. So until then, we will see you guys soon.